At the end of the last episode, Ayame and Takasago went their separate ways after a heartbreaking breakup. Later that night, the girls stayed up sharing stories about their secret crushes before finally drifting off to sleep. Now, the final day of the school trip begins. Early in the morning, Hina wakes up and gazes out the window, quietly watching the sunrise. Ayame wakes up shortly after. Hina notices a lingering sadness in her eyes, but Ayame quickly covers it up with a reassuring smile. She laughs it off, claiming her low blood pressure and the dry morning air just make her feel a bit off, promising she'll be completely fine after breakfast. With the morning routine out of the way, the group heads out for their final sightseeing tour. Right away, they notice that 3 girls from their group are missing. However, assuming everyone is visiting the same tourist spots, they figure they'll cross paths sooner or later. Their first stops are a famous historic bridge and a scenic bamboo forest. While walking across the bridge, they run into the boys' group. Ayame takes the lead as the resident tour guide, explaining that this landmark is called the Moon Crossing Bridge because it looks as though the moon itself is walking across it at night. Hearing this, one of the boys cheekily jokes, "Well, the girls here are just as stunning as the moon." The conversation then shifts to a local urban legend. It's said that if a couple crosses this bridge and looks back, they are destined to break up. Mischief in his eyes, Kudo immediately tries to force Taiki to look back. Taiki resists with everything he has, determined never to lose his connection with Chinatsu. But suddenly, a strange noise startles him, and Taiki accidentally glances backward. Ayame doesn't miss the beat and immediately starts teasing him mercilessly. Next, the group wanders into a nearby souvenir shop. Kyo notices that Ayame is wearing traditional, intricately designed hair ties. Ayame beams with pride, explaining that she chose them specifically to match the accessories worn by Hina and Nina. Kyo looks at her and casually drops a compliment. "They look great on you. You look really pretty." Ayame freezes, completely caught off guard. As her heart flutters, she can't help but wonder, was Kyo just complimenting the hair ties, or did he genuinely mean that she looked beautiful? Leaving the shop behind, they step into the breathtaking bamboo forest, where the towering stalks stretch over 10 meters into the sky. Hina looks up in awe, wondering aloud how such slender, delicate trees manage to stand tall without snapping or falling over. Kyo offers a brilliant explanation. He explains that the nodes, the distinct rings along the stalk, give the bamboo its incredible strength and resilience. Their teacher overhears this and shares a beautiful piece of wisdom. He tells them that human life is exactly like a bamboo tree. The hardships, challenges, and major turning points we experience are just like those nodes. They might look like scars or interruptions, but they are precisely what make us stronger and more resilient over time. Deeply moved, Taiki pauses to look up at the canopy. He turns to Kyo and admits that this trip has made him realize just how massive the world truly is. Instead of feeling intimidated, he feels incredibly inspired and excited for what his future holds. The scene shifts as the school trip comes to a close, and everyone gathers at the train station to head back to Tokyo. Kudo, utterly desperate to prolong the vacation, hilariously climbs up a station pillar in protest. Ayame doesn't want to leave either. Her arms are completely loaded with souvenirs, proving just how deeply she cares about making her friends happy. Meanwhile, Hina notices her phone battery is completely dead, but she decides she'll just charge it once they board the train. Suddenly, a wave of panic hits. The 3 missing girls still haven't arrived. Without a second thought, Hina rushes back into the crowds to find them. Ironically, the 3 girls manage to find their own way back to the platform, but Hina gets hopelessly separated in the bustling crowd. To make matters worse, she accidentally drops the lucky charm she bought for Haruto. By the time she retrieves it from the floor, she has lost precious time. Back on the platform, Nina and Ayame frantically try to explain to their teacher that Hina is missing. However, the teacher completely misunderstands, assuming they are talking about one of the boys and waving it off, insisting everyone is accounted for. By the time Hina finally gasps her way back to the platform, the train has already departed. She is left stranded, completely alone in an unfamiliar station. With her phone dead, she has no way to call for help. Clutching Haruto's lucky charm tightly against her chest, determined to protect it because he specifically asked her to bring him one, she feels a crushing sense of isolation. We then flash back to earlier that morning to see how Chinatsu spent her day. Waking up early, Chinatsu immediately checks her phone and sends Taiki a sweet text, wishing him a great final day on his school trip. After a relaxing morning of hot tea and yoga, she heads to the gym to meet up with her close friend, Yumeka. Yumeka asks her how she's adapting to living alone. Chinatsu smiles, admitting it has its challenges, but she's genuinely enjoying the independence. Yumeka naturally assumes that Chinatsu must be spending plenty of quality time with her boyfriend, but the reality is quite different. Ever since Chinatsu moved out, her chances to see Taiki have become incredibly rare, especially with him away on his school trip. Yumeka offers a realistic warning about the upcoming year. Once you graduate and head off to college, your entire life is going to shift. Taiki is going to be completely buried under sports commitments and intense college entrance exams. Since you'll have more free time on your hands, you might end up feeling incredibly lonely and missing him more than ever. Chinatsu simply smiles, her resolve unwavering. She softly replies that she is ready to endure any distance and wait for Taiki, no matter how long it takes. Touched by her dedication, Yumeka reassures her that whenever she feels lonely, she can always come over. Soon after, Nagisa and another friend join them, and the girls spend a wonderful afternoon playing basketball before heading out for dinner. When Chinatsu finally returns home that evening, she bumps into her next-door neighbor, the same friendly boy who had previously gifted her cake. This time, he hands her a box of souvenir cookies from Okinawa, flashing a warm, lingering smile. Suddenly remembering he's late for work, he hurriedly takes his leave. While Chinatsu finds his intense energy a bit eccentric, she can't help but notice the incredibly pleasant scent of his cologne. Shaking off the distraction, she glances at the clock, thinking to herself that Taiki must be on his train ride. Back on the train, Hina's friends are in a total state of panic. They know she's stranded alone at the station with a dead phone, leaving them with no way to contact her. But as they frantically look around, they suddenly realize something shocking. Taiki isn't on the train either. The perspective shifts back to the quiet station platform where Hina sits, feeling hopeless. Suddenly, she looks up and gasps in utter disbelief. Standing right in front of her is Taiki. Taiki explains that he had noticed her running off to find the lost girls earlier. When he overheard Nina and Elamai panicking on the platform, realizing Hina hadn't made it back, he instinctively jumped off the train right before the doors closed. He simply couldn't bear the thought of her being stranded all by herself. Taiki quickly calls their teacher to report the situation, and Mr. Ainoyaji instructs them to wait and catch the very next train back. As they sit together waiting for the next arrival, a flood of memories rushes through Hina's mind. Every single moment, every kindness, and every ounce of affection she has ever felt for Taiki comes rushing back, overwhelming her heart. She tries her absolute best to act tough, pretending she had everything under control and didn't need rescuing, but her bright crimson blush gives her away completely. Once they finally board the next train, Taiki starts playfully teasing her, reminding her that she's the sole reason they missed their original ride. Hina defends herself, explaining she was just trying to help their classmates, but she sincerely apologizes for looping him into her mess. Taiki smiles and brushes it off, joking that she can just buy him a treat later to make up for it. He adds that missing the train was actually a blessing in disguise, because now he doesn't have to sit through hours of kudos non-stop, exhausting chatter. Hina can't help but smile, deeply moved by his kindness. She realizes all over again just how incredibly wonderful, selfless, and uniquely special Taiki truly is. During the ride, an elderly couple sitting nearby looks at them fondly, mistaking them for a sweet young couple. Taiki immediately blushes and stammers a polite denial, while Hina remains quiet, completely lost in her own thoughts. Attempting to change the subject, they start talking about the future, realizing they will both be third-year students very soon. Hina proudly points out that her birthday comes first, to which Taiki replies, "That means you're turning 17 soon, and as soon as we step into our third year, the national qualifiers are going to kick off." He jokingly adds that traveling on a bullet train might magically rub off on him, giving him explosive speed on the badminton court. Hina chuckles, teasing him that even if a genie gifted him instant skills, he's the type of person who would never be fully satisfied. Taiki grins, touched by her insight. "Wow, you really do understand me, don't you?" Hina reassures him, reminding him that he successfully made it to nationals last year, so he will undoubtedly do great this time around. Taiki nods, his expression turning serious. He admits he can't afford to slack off for even a second if he wants to defeat fiercely talented rivals like Yusa, Haruto, and Kyo. Hina passionately cheers him on, telling him with absolute confidence that he will win because she has witnessed firsthand how tirelessly he works to improve every single day. Deeply touched, Taiki looks at her and says, "Hearing you say that actually makes me feel like I can pull it off. You might find this hard to believe, but I genuinely admire you. Whenever I compete, I get so obsessed with winning and terrified of the end result. But when I look at you, I don't see that desperate, suffocating greed to win. And I mean that in the most positive way possible. You've been competing at a high level for so many years, and you've already achieved so much. But what I admire most is that you never stopped. You've woven gymnastics into the very fabric of who you are." Hearing his words, Hina is suddenly thrown into a flashback of her childhood. She remembers being a little girl, watching her classmates play and laugh together while she stood on the outside, completely isolated. Because her father was a highly respected, professional gymnast, the other kids constantly whispered behind her back. Everyone bitterly assumed that her success was purely a product of gifted genetics and favoritism from the coaches. That unfair stigma placed an immense, suffocating amount of pressure on her shoulders, making her younger years incredibly lonely. To hear Taiki recognize her personal, hard-earned dedication heals a part of her she didn't realize was hurting. Back in the present, the exhaustion of the trip finally catches up to Taiki, and his eyes grow heavy. Right before he drifts off to sleep, he mumbles a final, sleepy thought. "Hey, let's both make it to nationals together." Hina freezes in utter shock. She turns to look at him, but Taiki is already fast asleep, breathing softly. She knows deep down that Taiki said those words out of pure, innocent friendship. Despite knowing his heart belongs to someone else, her own heart begins to thud violently against her chest. In that quiet moment, she is forced to confront reality. The profound romantic feelings she had tried so desperately to bury deep within her soul are still completely alive. No matter how painful or heartbreaking it might be to love him, she realizes she still wants to be by his side. Softly, she lets her guard down and gently rests her head on Taiki's shoulder, falling asleep beside him. When the train finally pulls into the Tokyo station, Hina wakes up, jokingly complaining that her neck is completely stiff. Out on the platform, their worried friends and an incredibly irritated teacher are waiting for them. The teacher steps forward, clearly getting ready to unleash a massive lecture on them for getting left behind. But before he can utter a word, Hina and Nina confidently march forward, completely overwhelming him with their energy and catching him off guard. The three girls who had gone missing step up as well, tearfully taking full responsibility. They apologize profusely, explaining that everything was their fault for wandering off without telling anyone, and beg the teacher for forgiveness. Amidst the chaotic emotional display, Hina playfully tries to trip Taiki, attempting to push him over just to break the tension. Despite the girls' heartfelt apologies, the teacher remains firm on protocol and orders both Taiki and Hina to write formal apology letters for missing the train. As the crowd begins to disperse and head home, Kyo walks up to Hina. Noticing the subtle shift in her aura, he quietly asks if anything meaningful happened between her and Taiki while they were stranded. Hina pauses for a brief moment, a soft, beautiful smile gracing her lips as she replies, "No, nothing has happened. At least, not yet." With that captivating hint of hope lingering in the air, the episode comes to a beautiful close. What did you think of Taiki's rescue mission? And do you think Hina still has a chance? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more manga breakdowns.